In the past 5 years, I've created 3 short documentaries along with dozens of client projects. During that time, I've come to have a better understanding of how to tell stronger stories. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 tips that I have learned over my past 3 documentaries and how they can help you tell better stories. Before we start, I believe that learning is constant, and when you stop learning, you stop growing. Every project I take on, I try to improve my storytelling techniques using different methods and evolving my craft so that I can become a better overall storyteller. And I hope that you do the same thing as well. The best stories come out of the topics and ideas that we are most passionate about. You have to have a deep, deep love of the story and of the topic in order to spend a month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years making a film. My first film, New Roots, came out of my love of food. I am a passionate amateur cook. I love spending time in front of the barbecue. You could say I'm a little bit of a foodie, a typical millennial. I love trying new restaurants, trying new foods. Doesn't matter if it's the taco truck in the side of the road or a fancy high-end restaurant. I just love everything food and beverage. I translated that passion into my first documentary project at the beginning of the pandemic when the food security crisis hit. And I wanted to learn more about how local farmers considered their role in food production and how communities can focus on the important things like food. That project took me about 8 months to 12 months to do. And at the end, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. But I don't think I would have been able to sustain that effort if I wasn't deeply interested in that craft. First of all, let's talk about what a theme is. The theme of your story is the primary message of the film. You can think about it as, what is the question that I am trying to answer with this film? What are the questions that I am presenting with this film? Or what are you trying to convey through this film? Common themes for stories include good versus evil, sacrifice, love, coming of age, and overcoming challenges. When you're starting a project, it's beneficial to have a general idea of what you think the themes of the film are going to be. But if you're doing something like a verite doc, it's a good idea to keep an open mind to potentially changing the outcome of the film. What you think the theme might be at the beginning of it may not be what you wind up at the end of it. So keep an open mind and consider evolving your thinking as you move along. On my project, Mo Crazy Strong, I knew that it was a story about an athlete overcoming injury. Now here's the thing. There's a lot of films out there about athletes overcoming injuries, about the challenges that they faced, and a lot of it was internal problems that they had. I didn't see too many films that revolved around how the family copes with it and the family's role in helping athletes overcome an injury. Jamie's story had a very interesting angle on it, and I knew when I heard her story, that is the angle I wanted to explore. I'm not going to give away everything here. To find out more about the themes of this film, I recommend you watch it. It's now available live on Amazon Prime or Vimeo On Demand, and also available on Adventure Sports TV. I recommend watching it and think about what themes am I trying to portray through this film. This is a common issue I see with a lot of short documentaries and films. The pace and timing never really changes or fluctuates throughout the film to serve the story. A lot of times I see, especially among first-time documentary filmmakers or second-time documentary filmmakers, the film just feels flat all the way through. I believe that this is one of the most important skills that documentary filmmakers can work on. Now, you may think that I may be only referring to films that are only slow-paced, but it's not true. If you're creating a film or a short project that is completely fast-paced, cut, not providing any variation in narrative timing or pacing, you're also going to lose your audience. It's too much for a lot of people to handle. You need to have variations in pace and timing over the course of your film to keep the audience's interest. When planning out your film, even if you don't know where your film is going to end up, think about how you want the pacing to evolve over the course of the film and what each individual scene needs to represent. This can affect a lot of things in your process, including the camera movements you choose to implement, the style of the filmmaking, the cutting pattern of the film, and more. For example, if you're doing a fast-paced scene, you might implement more camera movements where you use whip pans and other sorts of transitions. But that's not going to fit into a slower paced scene. So you really need to consider this at the beginning of your filming process, so that way you can work with your DP or yourself to create that style within your camera work. In the edit, you need to consider how each individual scene's pacing and timing influences the overall film. As a general rule, typically, films start out a little bit slower, peak in pacing and timing as it gets to the climax, and then gradually come back down to a more normal pace. So how do you know when this is successful? Well, you need to ask an outside audience. After spending a lot of time in the edit, it's easy to lose sight over how the pacing and timing works. One of the things that we found with our film Mo Crazy Strong was people never felt like it was an 18-minute film. They said it felt shorter, which is a good sign. That means it's not dragging on in any places, and it held their interest throughout through the pacing and timing that we established in the film. And I actually developed that pacing and timing in pre-production. If you want to know more about how I did that, leave me a comment below, and I'm happy to explore that in a future video. And in general, if you can convey something in a shorter period of time, you should. That's not a blanket rule, but it is something that you should consider in your films. I got a bonus for you. There's one other storytelling technique that I'm working on in my craft and that I think you should consider as well. And that is creating a strong sense of place in your film. Two films that do this incredibly well recently are All That Breathes and To Kill a Tiger. In both of those films, you really get a sense of the communities that these people exist in, and the environments and the cultural context of the film. This is something that I'm working to bring into my future films, and I think that you should too. If you like this video, please like and subscribe below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.